He's got that. That's what they get. Not really sure either. All right, we'll go ahead and call the special meeting of the Lakeshore Hospital Authority Board of Trustees to order. Is there any staff or trustee additions or deletions to the agenda or consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, staff does have both additions and deletions and one comment. We'll begin with the comment. If the trustees would note that because this is a special meeting, the month ended yesterday, and because of that, your bank statements and your monthly staff report are not part of your consent agenda. This month or the previous month will be added to our next regular meeting, whatever date that may be. So that's the comment. Additions. We have, if you'll, on the memo that was provided, I indicated that there was a potential option 4 as it related to Lakeshore Hospital. I know little about this. However, I did have a conversation with Mr. Peacock late last week, and he indicated that he now had an opportunity to partner on the use of that building. The agenda had already been published. Therefore, I was not able to add it without your consent. So I am asking that you consent and allow Mr. Peacock to present what we will call option 4 for the use of the Lakeshore Hospital, and that would be the main building. You want to do these individually or collectively? I got a few more.
Let's just go through all of them, and unless there's any issues, we'll do them collectively.
The next ones I would ask that you approve, but that you hold them in abeyance, and I'll explain why. One is we have the director and officers insurance renewal. We also have the legal services contract that you approved at your last meeting. The reason that I'm asking that you hold those in abeyance is, if you will note on the agenda, we're going to discuss the next meeting of the authority. If you decide after having heard the presentations that the next meeting will be our regular scheduled meeting, we'll just add these items to that agenda and we will still be within the time frame. But if for some reason that meeting should get canceled after you discuss it, and you should pick a date further than what, further late in the month, or even maybe to the first of the following month, we would need to act on these tonight because they are dated. So those two would be the D&O insurance renewal and also the legal services contract with RKK, Robinson Kennett Hendry. And the Lake City Medical Center will not be here tonight to present. They are shown as a presenter under the Women's Center. I have spoke to Jill Adams, the administrator of the medical center, and I will make comment at that time to at least explain what I know about what they want to tell you at this point. So with those, Mr. Chairman, trustees, I would ask your consent and approval.
Entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that motion carries. This time we'll have public comments. I would ask that the comments be kept. What I'd like to do is have public comments at this time, and then after we hear proposals, before we make any action, we'll hear comments again on those proposals. So any general comments, not really dealing with the proposals that we have before us tonight. Be welcome now. Ms. Lindley, did you want to make anything, general comments or? Okay.
Number one, the needs of the indigent population here in Lake City is currently being met by the authority and the providers. According to staff reports, there are only 40 clients. And my thought is give the main hospital building to Meridian, and any remaining indigent care funds could be placed in a trust, and staff could possibly be assumed by the county, then dissolve the hospital authority. If you speak with Brandon, he may be willing to do, because his board is an illegitimate comprised board. You board members have never asked the board attorney for an expedited AG opinion, but there's no hospital. Therefore, there can't be a board member from the hospital. So therefore, you're illegal. As far as the remaining other buildings, the clerk of the court would like the building behind the authority building for storage. I would recommend that that building be given to them.
So Lynn, did you have any comments that weren't dealing with the proposals for the buildings?
Well, there doesn't say anything to hear about the building, but that sums it up. That's my thought. And the other comments will come at that time.
Thank you, Ms. Lindley. Any other general comments? Yep. We'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So move to approve the consent agenda.
Got a motion,
Second.
second by Ms. Chancey. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries. Moving to new business, the discussion and possible action regarding the leasing and or disposal by donation of various public buildings located on the campus of Lakeshore Hospital. Mr. Williams, would you like to introduce these items?
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, trustees. For ease of understanding, I tried to break these down by building. I think it's a little easier for people to comprehend when we discuss it that way. So the initial discussions will be concerning possible uses of the hospital building itself. This, of course, is the main hospital. It's the 4-story building. And we're going to begin with Hope Bridges. Now, I do not know if Mr. Peacock intends to talk about the transitional housing proposal individually, or whether that is now included with what was amended on the agenda, but I will let him explain himself in that regard. Mr. Peacock, Hope Bridges.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I want to read something here today, and I want to see if it sounds familiar real briefly. I'm not going to keep us very long here. To develop and maintain a hospital complex that support a full array of high quality medical services. To provide affordable, high quality medical services to the residents of the region. To meet the medical needs of the indigent residents throughout the region. I picked that up from y'all's website, and basically that's, I think that's your mission. Those are your words and statement about what I'm gonna say us, because we'll be working in collaboration with the hospital authorities. We're here for. Transitional housing, we've had numerous meetings about that. Without going into any more detail, we've been working on the agreement as you have it in hand now. Literally, the main reason tonight why I'm here is actually to bring some very good news to us. We have a entity which is presented with me before, but at the time that we presented before, we were discussing using resources from you all to bring you a full service hospital with the ER in this community emergency room. Well, I'm here to tell you tonight that we can provide a full service hospital with a ER at no cost to the hospital authority on top of also being able to meet the needs for the veterans here, as we always intended to do, because we definitely want to put a dent in some of the issues that they're having here locally and nationally when it comes down to working with the veterans. Our hospital also will be serving them, as well as working with any other entity in this community that wants to do something to help for its behavioral health science services, anything. We believe in collaboration all the way around. So that's why we're to the point now that we can proudly present and say that Ace Medical has came around to actually do a large investment towards the building, operations, management. As you already know, you have some history about them already. They have multiple facilities and to me, it's an asset to this community on top of the transitional with the veterans. We're going to look at about 25 beds initially. And from there, you know, like I said, no cost to the hospital authority. You have your full service hospital in this community on top of what we've already been working on with a transitional side of it at no cost to you all. It's pretty simple. Mhm.
You partner with Ace Medical as well as you.
Yes, we will do the amendments on that, on the lease agreement that we have right now. We will make sure they're included inside of it because we're investing quite a bit of money into the building.
Yes, you're well aware of the process. Sharing information. Post.
Right.
But again, Ace Medical.
Hmm? Yeah, they work together. That's they have quite a bit of assets, far more than the Hope Bridges organization, and it's going to require quite a bit. We have multiple millions of dollars worth of work that's got to be done to bring it up to code to standards for ACA, just to build the physical plan alone being done, and of course the services that we want to provide. That's why we are open to work with other individuals as well, but we can handle it. We're ready to go with that. Don't need anything from the hospital authority except cooperation and goodwill. Now, I can't do any better than that, y'all. We've been working on this a while. Whatever assurances that you all going to need, we can provide those as well.
You proposing entering into a lease as well where you
Same
make
thing,
lease payments?
yeah. Basically, I'm bringing them, just bringing them in underneath that. As Mr. William just said, they would definitely have to be on there to satisfy everything that we're doing. So other than that, everything can stay the same like we got it now, but it will be a functioning hospital inside of it also to service this community.
Mike, on this proposal, what would the proposed timing be as to when
Between 6 months.
both entities would open?
Well, with the hospital side of it, no more than 6 months when it comes down to transitional, because of the fact that, we got some work got to be done to the building. No more than a year with the hospital side of it because of the licensing. And of course, quite a bit of work got to be done to meet those standards, the new standards out there for the hospital side of it.
Okay, so
Because you got to have every component there. It has to be pharmacy, has to be lab, has to be everything there in order to qualify as a hospital.
okay, so in each instance, would your entity take over the hospital building and all associated costs
Yes, that's what I just said.
at the signing of the lease?
Just like Hope Bridges is doing with transitional, we're responsible for everything in the building, responsible for all the maintenance, operations, nothing. We need nothing from hospital authority. I mean, ACA is going to be extremely particular about Aid Healthcare Administration, of course, as you know, they're going to be the regulatory body of it, so it has to be done correct. There's no way around it. Your health and local fire inspections, all that stuff has to be up to date as well. So we're taking on all of the responsibility. We're taking on all of the risk. I mean, there's absolutely zero risk for you all as
Okay,
authority.
and I didn't mean to interrupt you. And it will have a full functioning ER
Yes, sir.
within a year? Is that
Yes,
what you're
sir.
saying? Okay.
Yes, sir. No more than a year, 6 months to a year. We should, the only reason the time frame is there, it's not for staff and anything else. The building is what we're, the work that's got to be done on that. It's not because we don't have the resources. Thank God to that now, but it's going to be on, passing inspections, getting new equipment. I mean, just, construction itself right now with the storm, and it's just ridiculous everywhere. So we ran into that. We're projecting running into that. So, getting materials and everything else. So that's why we look for that time frame, to get everything done. You all will be able to monitor all the progress. I mean, it can't do nothing but make it better.
And so with what legal entity would be the,
Hope Bridges.
it'd still be
Mhm. Hope Bridges.
Okay.
Mhm.
And so how would Ace Medical figure into the ownership?
Hope Bridges, basically, as you said a few months ago, we have to recognize them because they're going to be in a building with us on the lease side with you all. But the business relationship between Hope Bridges and Ace Medical, that's a kind of confidential business relationship that I don't mind sharing, but I don't know the pertinence of it when it comes down to offering the hospital for free to you all.
Okay, so it'd still be, and I'm just asking, it'd still be Hope Bridges. That would be the entity
Primary
on the lease.
tenant.
Would Ace Medical also be part of the lease?
Repeat that again. I'm so sorry.
Would Ace Medical also be part of
I'm
the
we
lease?
working with you all to satisfy the authority, whatever verbiage, legal terminology, whatever you all going to feel comfortable with, to let you all know they're going to be occupying the building along with Hope Bridges because we're the primary entity there. We're amenable to working with that. I mean, as long as we'll accomplish the goal that we're seeking, we both do. I look at it like this, like the old Jewish proverb. We work together on trying to find a solution. So whatever you all going to require, we'll work together with the exact verbiage, vernacular, whatever you want to put into the agreement to satisfy you about their presence. Even if they weren't there and we're proceeding with the transitional side. I mean, you have food service and other entities that I may separate for business purposes anyhow. But this here, since it's going to be a hospital, we have to have them on there because when ACA asks for the right that they have to occupy the building, it needs to be shown on that document that we have right now. You got to have that. They have to have a right to occupy the premises. So we have to satisfy that. Nobody's asking about where you're getting the money from. That's the most important thing. It's going to cost a fortune to do this. And the good thing about it is the fact that Ace has a great reputation. If you do due diligence on it, you'll see the facilities that they already own and operate outside of the hospital arena when it comes down to bio labs and everything else. So it's, those resources are being pooled as well as ours to bring this service to the community. I mean, we're talking about really transitioning that side of town and helping the individuals in the entire community. Matter of fact, jobs, caregiving service, services, emergency services, the distance between here and interstate, a few minutes make a difference in saving one life.
Mr. Peacock, refresh my memory. I wasn't here a year and a half ago when Ace presented, but I was 8 or 9 months ago
when he came with me again.
Does any of his facilities that he currently has, I think he has one in Arkansas,
Oklahoma,
excuse me. Do they operate as emergency room?
Yes, full service
They
hospital,
were?
full service,
Okay.
everything, everything, full.
And
And
it
it's
has
all,
one in Jacksonville.
yes, full service hospital. And the great thing about hospitals, as you all know, as being an authority, they're regulated by the Agency of Healthcare Administration. I mean, for us to, even myself, to even try to, say what should be and shouldn't on that, it's a stretch because believe me, ACA, which I've been dealing with them for the last 30 years in businesses myself that are licensed with, they're pretty good about doing their job. I think they'll do a lot, believe it or not, the ACA is going to do a lot of your due diligence and everything else at our expense. So all you got to do is just sit back. And I'm not trying to oversimplify it. It's just what the truth is. You can't punch holes in it. I mean, it's free. It's not going to cost you anything. There's no liability to it. That's why I say this should be short and quick. And you can think about it after I leave.
So that I can envision both concepts, I assume Ace Medical would operate the emergency room, 25-bed hospital, and the other floors would be part of
Veteran services.
veterans, which is
And-
what we've been
Mhm,
discussing for the
right.
last 6 or 7 months.
Right. And the good thing about it also, we're gonna have the credential, will be credentialed as well with the VA for the hospital, because we're doing some providential thinking with the VA potentially being closed down in the near or far future, whatever the VA decide to do with the current VA, the Veterans Hospital is here. We're just hoping to be able to take up some of that slack and help with the veterans. 22 veterans a day committing suicide. And of course, that's why, we would love to have a behavioral health component work in collaboration with us. I have no problem. I've reached out. Unfortunately, I haven't heard anything back from some of the providers that are here. I would love to work in collaboration with them. I mean, when it comes down to our veterans in this community and the mental health needs of it. So, I mean, that's what it's all about. I'm just reading, going by from the very beginning, all I've done is try to do what you all have as goals and what the hospital authority, because I consider that us, I'm working with you. We work together, has for, in your mission statement as well. That's all I'm trying to do. If you say no to me, you're saying no to what you all have in goals and mission statement at my cost.
I don't have any further questions.
Don't have any questions, comments?
If I could just ask one more, my understanding that your proposal is not requesting any sort of indigent care funding agreement from the authority, or it is?
We're not requesting anything from the authority. However, if the authority wants to work in collaboration, like I think we should all work together with programs or either anything that we're going to be seeking in the future outside of our primary resources that we have from the businesses. Of course, just like we're talking about with transition aside, if we're pursuing funding, resources from the federal government, whatever it may be, from improvements to the building to programs, or either grants, whatever. Yes, we would love to work in collaboration together, but for us, asking you for money, no, we're not asking for anything.
Okay.
There's so many ways you can ask that question. And it's no the same way.
Does anyone recall, and I can't recall this, but I believe when ACE first came here, they were not talking about opening an ER. What's changed?
Me, our business model and what we're planning to do with this community, providential thinking and knowing that the VA itself is going to be closed, perhaps be closing very soon, or either a little later, and a need, just sheer need for veteran housing services, veteran mental health services, veteran all the way around services. I mean, it's just a need. And Lake City is, that, be honest, you all are a destination city right now for the VA and for veterans. If you think about it, this is a hot spot, up here in the North Florida area and even outside of that area. So we want to be a destination, I hate to say it, hospital, housing, just bringing veterans back to life. And well, I won't say bringing back to life, helping them with regrouping, the ones that are coming back from cross-seas, that's what we want to do. We want to do all we can to help our veterans. That's been my goal the entire while. That's why Bob came down and visited, thought it was great, the director from the VA, others that veterans court people and everything else. I mean, it's just so many things that our veterans need that you all in collaboration with us, just by, saying yes to it, could really bring to this area, not to mention jobs. We're going to be bringing quite a few jobs and helping the local economy out. We're not just taking and moving someone from one side of town to make a campus for a school or something, or either, bringing in one kind of service, not that it's not needed, because we definitely want to do mental health services as well. That was needed. We have to do them.
Mr. Chairman, from previous negotiations with Hope Bridges, VA transitional, the biggest crux, the biggest problem that we've encountered is staff getting to the level that they could represent to you as trustees that reasonable financial guarantees are met. And if I understand quite correct, Sharma, who is the director owner of Ace Medical, is willing to
He's working with it tremendously.
He will actually execute a lease with you. But if we can't get past that, I just think that there's no need to go any further because we have spent 3 months doing nothing but trying to get beyond the financial guarantee aspect. And I think what I'm hearing Mr. Peacock say is by him bringing on Ace Medical, with Ace Medical's resources and financial backing, he believes that they can now meet that financial guarantee.
And I'm not trying to interrupt you, but for what we were trying to do before, just simply with the transition side of it, the plan would have met that, but this also just puts us all the way over to our goals. I mean, because now we're helping the community and of course the financial resources of very substantial, with Ace Medical, just like he's saying. So, and there's nobody at risk here but us and me. I mean, that's it. I mean, you all are not at risk financially. Definitely liability wise, we're going to ensure that you're not as well with the documents that we put together. There's just so many ways, you can ask, if I guess you want to say if you fail, you're still not at risk. I mean, not that we're going to ever do that in the first place after the investments that we're making. I've invested quite a bit already just in due diligence over the last past several months. I've had everything you can think of studied on that building so far. And literally, that's why I want to make the wise decision possible for us and the organization. But I do believe we can accomplish those goals with the hospital.
And also, just to expand upon Mr. Douglas's comment, not only is it a change in the scope, but if you'll recall, the original Ace Medical proposal required a subsidization
Right.
from the trustee. Therefore, it was dismissed by you for those reasons. This is different. This is different, both what services they would provide at what level and the removal of the financial guarantee, or at least that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, we were initially as well, Hope Bridges, with all the other entities to do what was on the goals. All it took was the goals that you all had. And I went out and found every entity that would partner with us to reach all of those goals. And of course, using some of your resources to help us accomplish those. Well, now, we're still accomplishing your goals without asking you for those resources other than the building itself, which that was part of what we're doing anyhow. But I really have appreciated, I'll say this in closing, the opportunity that I've had to meet you all and gain friendships from some of you all as well. It's been a nice several months, almost a year. And I think I'm pretty familiar with the community and I know the challenges that you all are facing. And I really would like to be a solution to those challenges instead of just landscape around it. And I believe that we could accomplish this together with bringing a hospital over there in that area once more. I think that would really help the community out. I just can't understand what's bad about a hospital being in that community that you're not paid for. I'm just, there's something called insanity. And that not wanting that, not costing you anything, that's.
Other questions or comments from Mr. Peacock?
Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Whenever we finish talking about all the proposals, before we take any kind of action, we're going to do comments after everybody makes their proposals. Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Next proposal.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, trustees. The next proposer is what we call option 2 for the use of the main hospital, and that would be Meridian Behavioral Health Care. And Don Savoy, of course, is their executive director. And Don, it looks like you got people with you. I'll let you introduce them. How's that? I think they're ready for you.
Good evening.
Well, I'm not here to go over the proposal and all the detail for the floors and breakdown that myself and our executive VP Lauren Cohn went over for you last time. 2 meetings ago, you all had put a deadline on the Peacock proposal of, I think, the 26th of September. So I had penned a letter to Dale and to the trustees, just saying that, we're still very interested. And that interest has not waned. We have been in this community for 50 years. We're celebrating 50 years of serving the community. And, we think it's very much needed. So as part of those discussions, what I heard was there was some confusion about our proposal. So I thought what I do is just go over a few things and provide you some information if that's okay. I'll keep it pretty brief. So, the current offer is presented is that Meridian takes ownership of the building and surrounding properties to include the hospital building, the parking lots, north along with the area, the administrative facilities and outbuildings, and the landing. Basically everything from the street on over, including that parking lot in the bay with the facilities buildings. The main reason for that is we're going to have to put 7 to 9 million into the building. We've already spent 35,000 to do a study on the facility, both the external and internal. And as Mr. Peacock said, he's not wrong. It's going to take a lot of money to bring that up to ACA licensing standards. We anticipate it take way over a year to put all those pieces in place. Just because ACA is extremely stringent, they will look at everything. Not just fire and safety, but they're going to look at the walls. They're going to look in the walls. They're going to look at really lots of things as they put that together. That doesn't happen overnight. Not the study, not the planning, not the operation of it. Meridian, being a not-for-profit and part of the community, we can't put $7 to $10 million into something we don't own. Number one, we can't get, even as strong as our financials are, and they're included in the packet, we can't get a loan on something that we don't own, or subsidize something that we don't own long-term for the community. But given the opportunity, I think we have an opportunity to have a 50-year run here of that hospital. Hospitals like Aspire in Orlando, Grace Point in Tampa. I mentioned the Providence Center took over an old hospital up in Providence, Rhode Island. They've done similar things. And the lifespan of these hospitals license goes a long way. I think we're all in agreement now, without putting a significant investment into that building, it's not going to be able to operate as a hospital and get it licensed. I think Mr. Peacock said that as well. Meridian, upon ownership, will renovate the hospital, bring it up to licensing standards, both the interior and exterior, get it licensed by ACA as a psychiatric hospital. We agree to operate the hospital based on available funding for a term of no less than 25 years. That's pretty significant investment in the community that is growing. We welcome partnerships. We've reached out to the college. We'd love to provide practical training opportunities for all levels and positions, nursing, techs, primary care, others in the hospital. We do that now with University of Central Florida, with the HCA hospital in Gainesville, with UF and others. We know that to grow staff, we have to grow from within, we have to train, and we have to be part of that. And that's critical. As previously stated, an urgent care would be super important for the hospital. Daily, we have folks come in under Baker and Marchman Act, and we have to send them out for medical clearance first. They go out either to the hospital here or to Gainesville, get cleared, and come back. Urgent care on the first floor of that hospital means that we can work in conjunction 24/7, get folks medically cleared, stabilized, and right back across the hallway into psychiatric services. Pharmacy, we have to have a pharmacy. I talked with Mr. Williams. There are some local opportunities. Our goal is to work locally with local folks, grow what we've already done in the community, and really start to expand on it. Same with primary care. You've seen a lot about health homes. Meridian acts as a health home for Centene, the largest plan in Florida. And what we were told just recently from the Sunshine Plan Centene is that Meridian is the single largest provider of services for them in the state of Florida. And I had to ask the question, okay, we're based out of Gainesville and we're in North Central. How is that possible? Well, when you get into Miami, Tampa, and some of those larger regions, there's a lot of competitors, so it's broken up. We are the safety net provider for a greater than 8,000 square mile region and 14 counties. So we're very significant in size, scope, and staffing as it relates to that. You know, I talked a lot about who we are. We're also accredited by CARF. We have to deal with a lot of that. We have many things that we do. And honestly, I can't say this more clearly. Meridian is healthcare. We provide healthcare services. We're licensed that way. We have well over 65 licenses with Auth and DCF combined. And that's at all levels of care and treatment. So that's pretty significant. So why the hospital? Why do we keep coming back to you? It's probably the sixth time I've been in front of you. It's a key part of Meridian's strategic vision for the community. A freestanding psychiatric hospital does not exist anywhere in this area. And quite frankly, everything I'm told is it's going to be between 25 million and 50 million to stand that up. As the population grows, who's going to build that? Who's going to invest that? Who's going to support that? This hospital building is, from my perspective, for a large region centered around Columbia County, the one opportunity we have to get that done for years and years to come. And as you guys look at things, you know, you're projecting out over the horizon. What's the future? What are the needs for the community? What are the healthcare needs for the community? I mean, I see that as a big part of our job, you know, me and my team, and also you as trustees for the community. What's going to be sustainable? Well, again, we've been here for 50 years. To talk a little bit about the hospital, and just to be clear, what we'll bring, hospital will have 185 employees, and that they'll be added to the downtown area, all shifts, but largely day and evening. Large portion of the positions will be highly paid, highly skilled medical positions. Professional staffing, doctors, nurses, technicians, recovery specialists, and administrative staff for a myriad of programs that'll exist there. The folks will likely shop, eat, seek services, and many will likely move in and become an integral part of the community. You know, economic growth is just a fact of a large, successful hospital system being here in town. We also will be a hub of excellence for treatment in Columbia County and surrounding counties. You see this every day. We can't get psychiatrists out to really small communities, but through telehealth and options, we make that happen. Psychiatric hospital here in town gives us some vertical excellence. At the same time, we're spreading out in the community. We're far from sort of a franchise model. We build depth of services within the core counties we serve, Gainesville and Columbia County. And then we spread out from there and make those services available either in the smaller communities, but as they get more and more intense, we bring them into those hubs or those centers of excellence. So that's really a big chunk of what we do, the hospital. You know what, some of the things we see, Meridian, you know, we've been here 50 years. We are a partner. I put in there our financial statements, but a lot of other things as well. You know, we're seeing an increase in death by suicide. It's a fact. You know, available treatment and services are key to reducing the rate of death by suicide, and Columbia County is not immune to that. As we grow in population, we're seeing the numbers go up. The team at Meridian, all 700-800 of us are working our butts off to try and be a part of the solution for that. And that's critical. I've heard a lot over the last month and a half about community concerns. I'd like to address that. There has been much discussion about crime, homelessness, and increase in drug use in the community related to a psychiatric and addictions receiving facility. Quite frankly, that doesn't happen. The in your packet is about an inch thick with studies from institutions across the country that has spoke about a decrease in homelessness, a decrease in drug use. Think about it this way: if treatment is available, why would folks that are not seeking treatment hang around a hospital if they're not interested in treatment? And, you know, when we look at the homelessness, Mr. Anderson, our senior VP and chief clinical officer, operates 20 staff in Gainesville that work with supportive service. It's called Supportive Services, Veterans and Families. We work on housing, we work on education, we work on treatment and other things for those folks, because we know it's a significant need and we can bring that to the community as well. The reference here are research studies from across the country. Communities improve and crime is reduced as mental health facilities are added into the community. That's not fiction, that's fact. We hear a lot about stigma, that is fact. Columbia County is growing in both census and urbanization, and the demand of the needs are increasing. Meridian is beyond capacity now, and demand only continues to grow. There is no option anywhere in the area for Medicare recipients, yet our aging population is also seeing an increased need for psychiatric and addiction care. Much has been said about drug prevalence, and that is in reference to MAT outpatient programs, is the way I take that. I want to be very clear to you. I've said this a couple times now. Those programs, our outpatient medication assisted treatment programs, will not move to the hospital. It just doesn't make sense. The goal is to take our Michigan Street address and continue to grow those programs there. Well, there is no increase in drug use related to it being at the hospital. Hospital is an entirely different level of care from outpatient medication assisted treatment. Those programs, you'll have my word, we could put it in writing, will stay over at our Michigan Street and expand to meet an ever growing community need. One of the things I can tell you we've done, Stigma Strong, we did a lot with that. I've asked our chair, Tina Seifert, to reach out to the chamber, which she's done. We have now a list of businesses in town, and in the next few weeks or a month, we're going to set up a town hall with those businesses to talk to them about stigma, talk to them about the facts versus fiction regarding services. With that said, I'll gladly take any questions that you all have. There are some key quotes that I highlighted in the packet. You have our community report to Columbia County, which I gave here last April, that talks about the numbers and the statistics. The needs are here. It is growing. We only have one shot at this as far as I'm concerned. And I really hope that y'all will consider it. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have. And just for reference, Lauren Cohn is our Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer. Alan Pollan is our Senior Vice President of Clinical and Community Services. And our Chief Clinical Officer is Richard Anderson, who, by the way, has been with Meridian for 42 of our 50 years. Is it 42 or 43? Going on 42. And we are growing in leaps and bounds. I mean, we have well over 800 positions right now throughout the region. This is a critical community for us, and the need is not going to go away, guys. Glad to answer any questions you'll have.
On the campus, you're interested in mainly in just the hospital, the 4-story hospital building, not the other outlying buildings. Is that correct?
Correct. At this time, we'd love to work with other folks. I've spoken with Dale and others, and, partnerships are key, but local partnerships are critical. I mean, you look someone in the eye, you know who's in the community, you can trust them. We know that acute care is critical from a hospital standpoint, just in general, but also for the folks we serve. Pharmacy is important. Primary care is important. If you don't have housing, if you're not healthy from a medical perspective, what are you going to worry about your behavioral health, your mental health for? It all needs to come together if we're going to solve the problems of the folks in our community and the health of the folks in our community.
I don't know if I'll ask this the right way, but one of your comments, the Michigan Street, can you go into details on what will remain there?
Sure.
One of the main concerns that I've heard and that the board heard the last time that you presented to us was drug patients,
Right.
and in that area. Are you saying that there wouldn't be drug related patients? I may be saying that
Yeah, I
completely
understand.
wrong. I'm sorry if I am, but are you saying that the patients that are dealing with drug addiction issues wouldn't be at that campus, or?
What I'm saying is, it's all levels of care, Mr. Chair. So when you look at the hospital, we will move from our Michigan Street campus, our crisis stabilization, our crisis receiving, which includes both mental health and substance abuse. So addictions receiving facility and a CSU, crisis stabilization unit. On the second floor, we'll open up psychiatric hospitalization, which isn't a level of care that's offered anywhere in this community today. So while someone is inpatient, they are there. If they're there under a Marchman Act, one of the things is that they can't leave while they're under that care. And one of the things we hear a lot is, when they're done with treatment, you open the door and let them go. That's not the case. We follow up with discharge planning, coordination, and everybody gets sent back to their home, which is safe. And down in Gainesville, we own a motel. If someone doesn't have a safe environment to go to, nobody pays for this. We put them up there temporarily till we can work with them on housing, job, and other resources so that they can be successful in the community. So to answer your question a little more succinctly, crisis stabilization and addictions receiving will come out of Michigan, our inpatient setting. Our residential will grow in that area. We're opening up Williams Manor right now. We have one of the only children's residential that will stay on that campus. And then that main building that you see, not the one out on the road on the main street, but that main campus will expand to provide more medication assisted treatment in all its forms for outpatient. And that's largely a 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30 in the morning till 10:30 noon. Then there's a break and then it's in the evenings. But it makes no sense to put outpatient addictions in a hospital setting. Too expensive a setting. Is that? Oh.
I think so.
And outpatient counseling will remain there too at the McCall building. And that's what used to be the funeral home that's out on 47. I think the road's 47. Let's go.
Am I understanding from your current proposal that you're asking for the hospital building and surrounding parking to be transferred to Meridian? And then once that transfer occurs, you will assume all costs of the building operations, and you're not asking for any subsidy from the authority.
That's correct, sir. Exactly that way. We just can't move forward with the amount of construction, the amount of renovation, and bringing that building up to code, for a property that we don't own. And quite frankly, it's just hard to fathom.
I completely understand.
Thank you. Other question?
Don, from my calculations, correct me if I'm wrong, second through the fourth floor, approximately 100 beds.
That's correct, roughly.
Trying to look into your crystal ball. What percent of that 100 beds would be Baker Acts?
Right now, we average up here, and Richard probably has numbers better, but we average a census of about 30 to 35. My numbers today were 18 of those were children and the balance were adults. So we're seeing a large growing children need as well.
And their length of stay would be?
For crisis stabilization, on the average, about 3.5 days. We have some folks that are here with us for 2 weeks. A few folks are with us for up to 6 months. Well, we work for placement in state hospital. We are not the state hospital. We are not a long-term treatment facility in that way. So we work with folks. We provide crisis stabilization. We provide psychiatric inpatient for much shorter lengths of stay. And then we coordinate people back into the community. But there's some folks that have to go to state hospital. And at that point, we hold them, we start their medication management, which can take months to stabilize. And at the same time, we're petitioning and we're getting them up to the state hospital.
Okay. And the remainder of the beds, as you were saying, would be for your long-term psychiatric care.
Yep.
And
Go ahead.
No, and when you say to the state hospital, there's only one state hospital now, is that correct?
No, there's 2 or 3. There's another one way down south. I think there's the one in the Panhandle. Yeah.
And then Chattahoochee,
Yep.
and then we don't have the one in McClenny anymore.
It's still there, yes.
It's still there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's got 2 pieces. It's forensic, which is law enforcement, legal hold population, as well as private. We're not that.
And you say you do have plans to get before the local chamber, business community.
Yeah, I got
and reach out to the other parts of the community of Columbia County.
Yeah, I think it's important. Stigma and misunderstanding is a big part of what we face. Has it lowered? Yes. Did we see it lower with COVID? It made us optimistic, I would say. But it ebbs and flows. It's certainly not where it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when we were in this industry. But we were often thought of as social services. We're not. We're healthcare. We're licensed. We're no different than cardiology in that respect. licensed the same way, we provide care. That hospital building will become a hospital building again, licensed for that. And we'd love to work with partners.
Last question. I know when you were before us the last time, you gave us some figures on what you project to be your employees at this facility.
Mhm.
Do you still have those figures?
Yeah, I do. About 185 employees will be there.
And what percent of those employees do you think would live in the community?
A large percentage. One of
Large
the things that's interesting is you're 40 miles from Gainesville plus. We have challenges right now getting folks to travel. So as the community grows, so does services and other things. A large part of our population is here right now. That's why we'd love to work with Gateway College, the way we work with other colleges. You're growing people locally, professions that they can then, buy houses, have families, go through all the things that builds a community and strengthens the community.
Thank you.
Questions or comments from someone?
Well, I thank you for your time, folks, and I really would hope that we would be given some consideration just based on the needs and what we're seeing. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, in addition to those presentations we've just heard, obviously one option which was selected by the trustees sometime back was simply raising the building. I have no new information to present on that option at this time. Just to remind you, we estimate that's a $2.5 million expense. That was based on a history of what other facilities of similar size had cost throughout the state. That may or may not be a good estimate. We didn't pay for an estimate. We didn't hire a professional to come in, but we believe that is a best guess as to that cost. So I think in summary, at least for the hospital, you have three options to consider. Based on what I heard, I would say that the Hope Bridges proposal has been modified to include a new partner. That partner is proposing to put a medical component in the hospital along with the VA transitional housing. You have the Meridian proposal, and as I just stated, you have the ability to simply raise the building. So those would be the three options that you currently have, and you have quite a bit of particulars pertaining to each one of those. Quite a bit of work has been done toward what would be required in terms of leases and et cetera in order to make any of these proposals work. But until we select one at that point, it's kind of hard to tweak and do the fine detail to finish it up. So that's where we're at with the main hospital. And if there's any questions that I can answer about any of these proposals or how we got to where we're at, I'll be glad to do so.
I would personally like to continue on the meeting and go to the discussion on the Women's Center, the two-story building.
Good.
Listen to those proposals and maybe talk to that proposer about
Sure.
the other proposals and see how either any of those three options would fit in their proposal.
Okay. And keeping along the same format, the next building we will be discussing is what we call the Women's Center. It's the two-story building which faces the lake. Staff believes there are three options currently for that building. One, of course, is contracting with an entity which we are calling Your ER Solutions, because that's the proposal that was originally submitted. But it is with Doctors Michael and Molly White. Dr. Molly White's with us here tonight. And then there is a proposal where the authority itself would operate a facility at that same location. And then, of course, the third proposal is the one I mentioned in my earlier comments. involving the medical center and where they currently stand in terms of the ability to assist or to help with providing medical care. Now, having said that, a lot of these proposals are considerably different than what we saw in the hospital. These proposals dealing with the Women's Center, with the exception of option 3, they involve subsidization by the authority. Because of that, I've had Dick, Mr. Powell, involved heavily in this process. So he's here to answer any questions about the assumptions we made, why we made the assumptions we did, what these types of facilities will cost, what the ultimate goal is, what it would take to get started. All of that becomes part of this discussion. So unlike the hospital, look, don't want anything from you. We just want a building or we want a lease. These are different. These are different. There's money attached to these proposals. So having said that, Mr. Chair, the first one is your ER Solutions. Dr. Molly can tell us what she'd prefer to be called, but I'm calling it that because that's how it was originally submitted. And if it's okay with you, we can ask Dr. Molly to step up.
See if I can not mess this up. Okay. Didn't work, did it? He told me just to right click it, and if it's a computer, I will not do it right. Hi, my name is Dr. Molly White. We presented several months ago for a proposal to do not an urgent care, but not completely a freestanding ER, but to provide emergency medical services to the community. We would be ER physician led. Quality healthcare is expensive, and over $7 million is what it costs per year to run Lakeshore's ER. CHS spent around $5 million per year, and the group staffing the ER spent over $2 million per year. We have outlined 2 models. One has a revenue guarantee and the other does not. We prefer the model without the guarantee, as we believe our model will be successful. There's no income guarantee represents the no income guarantee represents a greater risk to us, but we believe what we're offering will be successful, and we don't think it's the board's responsibility to ensure our success. I'm here to answer any questions you have. I don't want to go through the entire proposal, but what we would like to do is provide what's listed here. We would be what we're calling MPALs, emergency medicine physicians at Lakeshore. We would like to, we would be able to evaluate what a hospital-based ER could provide, as well as a freestanding with addition of ultrasound, which a freestanding cannot do, little to no wait time, fracture reduction, which in free ER standing is unable to do, sedation for painful procedures. You're not able to do that in most of the freestandings that I currently work in. We'd like to offer something to the community where we would take care of indigent care. We'd also take private insurances. We'd like to keep patients out of the hospital. Healthcare is expensive. Putting a patient in the hospital is extremely expensive. These people come home with these very large bills. But what we could provide is ongoing IV medication for pneumonias, et cetera, IV fluids, and try to keep them out of the hospital. That is our goal. It's actually safer for a patient to not be in the hospital. Ultimately, we would like to do CT scans, et cetera. And we'd like to build up to longer hours. We will initially start and be open during peak hours and build up as we can. Our plan is to have at least 10 employees. And we feel like we would offer a higher level, a higher quality of care because like I said, we are emergency physician led. We have 20 years of experience and we've trained a lot of the physicians currently that work in this community. And a lot of the mid-levels, and we would like to work with, partner with many of those, again, in our facility. So I'm here to answer any questions. I don't want to go through the whole proposal again and take up a lot of your time, but if you guys have any questions, please feel free to.
If I may.
Sure.
Dr. White, Richard, if you don't mind, would you please just summarize the operation and how you computed the cost pro forma that is in the agenda?
Okay, would you like me to go up there?
So, Chair.
Whatever you.
I'll do it either. If people can hear me from here. Okay, okay, so the concept of this proposal, it's to provide a higher level care than either primary care or urgent care. And so, but the concept behind it in the first 2 years, which I analyzed, is that the authority would provide the greatest amount of patients to the facility, which would require an increase, obviously, in the current patients. And so, and I've reviewed this with Dr. Michael White, and he didn't have objections to it. So in the first year, there would be 1,710 patients on Medicaid, and that would average 5 patients a day. Because that rate is low, they are asking for $150 subsidy for each of those patients for the first 2 years. And so, and then they're anticipating 1,710 authority patients, which would be 5 patients a day. And they are requesting a rate of $611 per visit for those patients. So the anticipated amount from the authority for the first year would be $1,301,310. They are asking that the authority pay the property taxes on the building because this would be a private business. And so the total outlay from the authority would be $1,311,310. You have currently a healthcare services budget of $350,000. So the net cost to the authority is estimated to be $961,310. I computed it out, equivalent millage. In the first year, that would be the equivalent of 0.28 mils. The startup costs, the authority would renovate the building, purchase the equipment, is estimated to be $650,000. So in year 2, the patients are expected to grow. The Medicaid patients would be 2,394, still with the $150 subsidy. The authority patients would be 2,565. They would reduce that rate, the per visit rate, to $452. So the outlay for the authority would be $1,518,480. You'd still pay the property taxes of $10,000. So the outlay would be $1,528,480. Your current budget is $350,000. So the increased funds required be 1,178,480, which is about a third of a mil, 0.34 mils to fund that. Obviously, it could be funded out of reserves, but this would be an ongoing obligation because even in the future, it would rely heavily, it's anticipated to rely heavily on authority patients. Okay, option 2 is a guarantee of revenue. But again, you're still funding the largest amount of the revenue. And so the revenue guarantee would be dependent on the amount of patients. But the revenue guarantee would be $125,000 a month for you're guaranteeing a maximum of $1.5 million a year. And so what would come off of the 1.5 million would be patients that are not authority patients.
And the goal would be, as the business grows, to no longer rely on the authority board as we grew the business with
And-
private insurance and
the whites are comparing, because this is an equivalent facility to the prior ER that was operated by CHS, that the per patient cost is below the cost that was paid for that. But on the other hand, the number of visits that you would pay for will be greatly more than your history of paying for them there. And so, and the key thing is that it would, I'm not saying it's bad, but it would be an ongoing cost for the authority. It would not end, because you would always have authority patients, which you want to have authority patients, but it would be a substantial increase in the budget over what you've been currently doing the last couple of years.
Dr. White, I think we may have asked a similar question at the last time. Is there any intent or desire to have a primary care clinic as well to see authority patients?
We have to be careful because a lot of our partners with the primary care physicians, we don't want to take away from their from them. So we would have to work in collaboration with them. As long as we would like to do that, but at the same time, we have to be very careful with the primary care physicians because they do support us as far as in the community, and we want to make sure that we are very careful with that, if that makes sense. But yes, I was just going to say that once the volumes grow and the more visits per day, then we would be reimbursed significantly less. And this would be a significant cost reduction from CHS from 5 years ago. And that's not, we didn't adjust for inflation. We went on the actual 2018, 2019 cost per visit average based on authority board patients. And, emergency medicine, like any other business, is relying on customers. We'll offer the best product. I believe we'll offer the best product and be able to care for a significant number of people. We also believe we have a calling to give back to the community that's given so much to us over the last 20 years now, so that we've been privileged to work in this community.
Questions for Dr. White? Dr. White, you've heard the two previous proposals that we had for the main hospital campus. I don't want to put you on the spot by asking this, but if either one of those proposals were to come to realization and be placed in the downtown community next door to where we're looking at the Women's Center building, would that give you any hesitation. I mean, one being VA transitional housing with a full service hospital, so an ER, that type of thing. And the other being Meridian behavior in their hospital campus. Would either one of those take away from your business model?
Oh, I don't
or-
think so.
Okay,
We, I think there's a need for both. Having worked in the two different ERs in this community for quite some time, I do know that Meridian there's a definite need for that. And thank you for what you've done for us over the years. But I'll be honest, we're efficient, and I think that we take good care of patients, and we have a good patient rapport, and I welcome any competition from a full standing ER across the street. So we were the fastest in all of HCA when my husband ran it. So he's the Nick Saban of ERs. He is. So, but, and we know efficiency, but we know how to take and have good quality care as well. So, and if the other hospital can provide more services, fantastic. Meridian is a definite need, so we would welcome any and all.
all right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, option 2, as it relates to the Women's Center, sort of grew out of the conversations that staff was having with the Whites and their proposal. And we felt like it was necessary that we at least present it to you because some other authorities do have similar operations as what we're about to describe. But it's not unheard of for an authority to basically operate its own center. The idea would be to operate as close to what Dr. White just described as we possibly could. The way we would do that, of course, is we would have to contract for doctors out of, third parties. For example, the Shands Hospital System, they do have opportunities where we can contract and they would provide doctors. You probably will not get the same doctor every shift, but they will make sure that a doctor is there, et cetera. So we also put numbers to that proposal, and I'll let Richard explain what those numbers look like after the analysis. Richard?
Okay, so here the concept was that a large component of any clinical facility, ER or urgent care center, has a large admin component to it, admin and facility component to it. So the concept here would be to basically take the entire authority operating budget and put it in to fund the admin component and the facility component, which would mean you would vacate your current building for other uses and all those costs, and you would move staff, and the staff would be integrated into a new combination of rural health clinic and urgent care center. Under the concept of a rural health clinic, you would receive a higher primary care reimbursement for Medicare and Medicaid patients that would rival and maybe even exceed the reimbursement rates for like Blue Cross. And then you would hire a combination of higher contracting for the other staff. And so kind of the bottom line, and so it is and so the bottom line of the cost for that would be and so basically you would integrate the budget from operating fund and from the patient care fund, which is about 800,000 into the total cost. And the net cost to the authority would be about, and you would, the payment for authority patients would be an average of $150. And then the net recurring funding needs of this operation would be at the most about $500,000, which would equate to 0.15 mils. And the greatest savings would be, first of all, putting your operating fund budget into this facility, and you kind of transition to being a health clinic, urgent care center. And you would have some savings because of insurance is much lower because of sovereign immunity. You would have various grant programs available, prescription care, and my knowledge of this is through auditing rural health clinics, federally qualified health centers. So, but the greatest concept is you would have the facility at the hours you desired, and you would put those two budgets into the facility, which would lower the cost.
And both of the last two proposals that we heard, not saying that I'm interested in raising a millage rate, but if we do at some point, it sounds like both of those would be about half of what our last millage rate levied was.
Yeah, I think the last millage rate was
962.
and you're speaking of a third to a half of that. So, as you go on, because the more the other ones used by authority patients, the more the cost is going to likely be.
And of course, Mr. Chairman, trustees, the authority has not been involved in the direct provision of medical care some time. Goes all the way back to when Lakeshore Hospital when the authority took Lakeshore Hospital, entered into the first lease with Santa Fe Healthcare. So it has been some time since the authority has even considered or looked into providing any direct medical care. But nonetheless, it is an option. It was available. It sort of arose out of these discussions. And we felt like because it was something that others can and have done, we at least needed to present it. That's why it's on the list. The third option on the list, as noted on the agenda, was the medical center. I have had conversations as recent as today with Jill Adams, who is the administrator for the medical center. What Jill is discussing with me is they are still open to coming in and just doing a straight lease for that building. Very similar to what they had proposed as a component of the Florida Gateway College proposal that you heard. They still have an interest in doing that. Now, their interest initially is obviously from the what they called company care standpoint. They'd bring a nurse practitioner, an x-ray tech, and a nurse. They would run certain things that are currently performed at the hospital out of that facility while providing primary care to the public. But this would be a straight lease. This would be, a little bit different than the other proposals we're considering for that building, but it is an option and it is there. And so I told Jill that we appreciated it. I would relay that to you, and it's now part of the mix. Okay. There are other services that obviously you have asked to look at, one being pharmacy, the other being dental. Where we're at in regard to those is my concern is that until we decide what we're doing with the two larger buildings, I don't know what the budgetary constraints are going to be. I think we have a prime opportunity to do a pharmacy program. I think it would be great and wonderful. But I don't think that I can finish it until we decide what we're doing with the hospital and with the women's center. And so we're kind of holding that back until we make those decisions. And the same thing holds true with the dental. There are options for you to provide all of those services, but obviously we can't provide all of them if we don't know what the cost is. And so I think once we make these decisions, it will not take long at all to put those in front of you where you can make a final decision concerning them. And I would say too, Mr. Chairman, that I came to the meeting believing that I kind of was ready to make a recommendation, but to be honest, I've changed. I've changed my opinion. And if you want something to discuss before you take public comment, what I would recommend to you is we have a regular meeting scheduled for the 14th of this month. I think you need to keep that meeting. And I think what we need to do between tonight and that meeting is, number one, we need to authorize staff to get to the bottom of the contractual relationship that would occur or need to occur with Ace Medical and Hope Bridges. We can't get past that. If we can't satisfy that financial requirement, that proposal simply needs to be no longer considered. We spent quite a bit of time and quite a bit of effort trying to get to that point. But now with Ace being part of that, if in fact they're willing to be part of the lease, Mr. Powell can tell me exactly what it is that he needs in order to review that and vet it. We can do that. With the Meridian proposal, I think it's obvious that we'd kind of like to know if in the Women's Center we were to authorize or we were to open a emergency medicine physicians at Lake Shore. Could possibly they provide your medical needs? I think all of these are necessary in order for you to make a final decision. I will say when it comes to the Women's Center, while the option of having the Whites operate that facility are obviously pretty expensive in the early years, they come with immediate credibility. I'm sure you get the same calls I do. They are highly regarded in their fields. They are very good at what they do. I think this community and I think this region is very fortunate to have them here. And I think the bottom line for them is they simply, from what they've told me, they've worked for others long enough. They would like to create, they're at that stage in life, they would like to create and have their own business and be in control of that business. So I think they're very, very strong. And I think that proposal is very, very strong. However, all of those options as it relates to the Women's Center will work. They're doable in some degree. But because of comments made tonight, obviously I would like to read the rest of Meridian's proposal. Obviously, I would like to see what in fact the contractual relationship would be if we included Ace Medical and Hope Bridges proposal. And I think once we get answers to a few of these questions, we can easily come back on the 14th. If you want a recommendation from staff at that time, we can give you one. If you wish to make your own, at least you'll have the information that's missing, or at least I see as being missing, to do that with. But, we work at your pleasure, Mr. Chairman, trustees, so you can tell us. By the way, if you do decide to do that, those add-ons that were held in abeyance, we'll just move those to the 14th.
Trustees be interested in listening to public comment first and then we can discuss it. Okay. We'll move to public comment. Ms. Limley, I saw you hand go up real quick, so I wouldn't forget you, I promise.
Maybe all the Barbara Limley, maybe all the board members have seen the article from the Columbia County Observer, but I'll jump right in. A couple of weeks ago, I asked for the contract that the board attorney had billed the authority for. However, as of this date, I have not received the contract. And the other thing is Hope Bridges was administratively dissolved by the state on September 23rd. So officially there is no Hope Bridges. And sometimes you can't depend upon you guys to do information, find information. But Peacock and a partner had a lawsuit against them, $33 million. What they were doing, basically, for those in the audience, they were working and getting medications from Gilead Sciences. They give out medications at a reduced rate to HIV patients. What I determined from reading newspaper articles, they would have someone that was potentially HIV, get the medications, give them $10 and a gift card, then turn around and repackage and sell the medication. And I'm not sure exactly if Chandra Garcia, what her involvement is with Hope Bridges now, but she was the other defendant. Peacock was not alone in his quest to defraud Gilead Sciences. And I just think any association with Michael Peacock WellCare would be a very bad decision. I don't have an answer back. JP Morgan Chase filed a suit against Ace Biomedical, which is under Ace Medical. I don't know what the outcome was, but they were asking for more than $100,000. So maybe the money came up from somewhere. But I just think it's a terrible connection. We need Meridian, and there's a lot of mental health issues going on, and that makes the most sense. And as far as the other, Dale and I actually agreed, maybe ER Solution could team up with Savoy. I don't like the idea. I don't think any county resident would like paying taxes if they don't have to. The authority does not need to get into the healthcare business again. It was a fiasco back when Ludi shipped, and all you guys probably remember Ludi. You know, we don't need to further burden the taxpayers. Times are tough, you know, and that is all I have to say. And if you haven't had the opportunity to read this, look at the Observer and you'll see what.
Ms. Limley, what was your first statement about a public records request?
I had made a request for the contract that Mr. Coberline had billed the authority for. It was 3 different dates, services. He didn't do it. Maybe somebody in his office did. I want to see the contract that he billed the authority paid for it. Where's the contract?
What contract? I'm sorry.
With Hope Bridges. He was doing work for Hope Bridges, and Dale thought he had sent it to me. I never got it.
You need to address that.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Williams brought to my attention a request for all documents related to certain billing dates. And it's an important request. Florida law recognizes everyone's right to public records ever since the 1800s. And her request, I tried to reply to it yesterday. Unfortunately, in the past, my office blocked her email address. And it said that there were 3. It was a 3rd request, so we didn't see the other 2 requests. And we will process that in the order it's received. We certainly use the public records laws. We have 3 pending My law firm has 3 pending to government entities. And we are excited about processing Miss Limley's request. And we're going to work expeditiously on it in the order it was received.
I appreciate the response, but what amazes me is Hope Bridges not being a legal entity. And back in May, there was a discussion at a board member that he would be vetted between Mr. Kennedy and Williams, and none of that was done. So that's why I pursued my pursuit of what this Michael Peacock was. He has numerous suits against him. And as I told Dale, I thought he was a con man.
Thank you, Ms. Lemon.
If I may respond, Mr. Chairman, number one is there has been some vetting of Mr. Peacock. Nobody has not said that Mr. Peacock and some of his companies have not had issues in the past. But as it stands now, the one thing that anybody has to be able to do in order to contract is to sign a public entities crime statement. Nothing that we found or learned thus far would not permit Mr. Peacock to sign a public entities crime statement, which means, just as he stated himself under the law, other people, particularly state agencies, have vetted him as much as we have, and they have chosen to go ahead with contracts. Not to say that he's not had his problems, not to say that he hasn't had judgments and the like against him. That's all public record. Anybody can get that from the internet. We're not trying to say that at all. So, yeah, there are issues there. But my understanding is that he is able and he is in good standing with the state of Florida. He can sign a public entities crime statement. But it is because of these other things that the underwriting and the requirement to be financially responsible has been enhanced, which has led to the problems that I discussed earlier. When we get into these discussions and we know these things, we obviously ramp up the protection of the county, the taxpayer, and et cetera. And that's where a lot of this additional requirement and proof of being financially a financial guarantor in good standing comes from. It comes from those things. So just to make sure we all understand, I wanted to make that statement.
Are there any other public comments on the proposals that we've heard tonight? Mr. Warren.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, and staff, it was quite a few proposals. And so since we didn't have a chance to comment in between each, I'm gonna need a little bit of time to comment on each, if that's fair enough. Do I have to state my name?
If you will.
I may look somewhat like Kanye West, but my name is Sylvester Warren. And I definitely won't be going DEFCON 3 on nobody today. However, I do want to begin with saying that Ms. Barbara is right. I find with all government boards and boards alike, and I understand that besides volunteering, I appreciate those who volunteer. There's some that are on paid boards, especially those that volunteer. They have probably a limited amount of time with family and other things to do due diligence and to check things out. But there has been a lack of investigation that you would expect for certain board members to do to find out about certain things. As Ms. Barbara mentioned about Mike, I don't know Mike personally. However, I did hear Mike saying that the VA would be closing down. So, you know me, I'm that typical guy, kind of connected. So I get on the phone, call around, and I call some people ranked up in the VA, and they're like, what are you talking about? We ain't closing down. The most we're going to do is convert this into a nursing home type deal, out service some of my services, Jacksonville and Gainesville and Lake City, some outpatient stuff, but we're not shutting down. I'm like, okay, well, Mike Peacock said y'all shutting down. And they were like, I don't know Mike Peacock, but we're not shutting down. And this is coming from the top. So also, as we deal with the Hope Bridges whole issue, it was my understanding, unless the board changed their mind, they somehow lied to me and lied to the public, that if he did not get a bond, that, you know, we were going to flush that idea down the toilet. That was my understanding. I mean, do we talk between these sessions or not? Or I finish talking and y'all say what y'all say when I get done. I just don't know how this process work with the authority board, but that was the conversation that we last had. And I expect for you men to be men of integrity. If y'all tell the public something, or if you tell anybody something, I think you should live up to it. The worst thing that you can probably do to me is lie to me, because once you lie to me, then I would probably turn to Kanye West, and then I would go DEFCON 3, because I don't like to be lied to when you tell me something you're gonna do and then you end up not doing it. So I don't even see how Hope Bridges is even relevant in our discussion. I'm surprised that if they did not get the bond requirement, and definitely I think one of the people that strongly advocated that concept was you, Don Ken, if I'm not mistaken, about making sure next time he comes up, he has it. And this has this happened? I'm sorry. Has he been able to submit a bond? Was that the statement you made last time? If he couldn't produce the bond, we're going to be done with him. I remember you saying that. Don, I'm talking to you. Yeah, Don Kennedy. That's you, ain't it?
Listen to your comments.
You said that once he did not produce a bond, that we were going to move on with that particular concept. Do you remember saying that?
I'm listening to your comments.
No, it's a question. I said, do you remember saying that?
I'm listening to your comments.
Okay, Chairman, do you remember that conversation taking place?
I know that was discussed, yeah, but if you will, just keep it on the comments instead of the question. It's but yeah, I understand what you're saying.
I mean, we don't need to, I mean, we can easily be peaceful and we answer questions and we stick that word, or we can easily all become adversarial. I have no problem either way. Because I'm extremely independent and I don't care about who I piss off along the way about something that's right. Also, Meridian. I don't understand how Meridian gets back a second dip on the table when they were already off the menu. I thought we discontinued them from the menu. Now they're back on the menu. And from my clear understanding at the last meeting that we had, it was very clear, and I made it clear that I support mental health issues, and there's plenty of the land. I mean, I just don't understand why is it so important that that particular type of facility go in that particular community. I mean, let's get Nick Patel on the phone. I mean, they have old hotel buildings out there, and I'm quite sure we can put them out there on 90. They'd be close to Chick-fil-A. They'd be close to a lot of other amenities that would benefit them. Right? I was just talking to the family of Jack Mott. They have a real estate holding out there off of West 90 next to Drummond Bank, in which they want to sell those 15 acres out there. As a matter of fact, people say that there's an issue with mental health and drug patient treatment in the Third Circuit. And what people need to understand is Third Circuit is not Lake City. That's just one of the Third Circuit counties, which is Columbia County. It's 7 counties in that Third Circuit, right? I got 24 acres over in Dixie County, sell you those. Put it over there. It does not have to go in this spot. And so it continues to raise the question, why out of all other places that Meridian thinks that it's ideal to go in a community that needs something bigger and better and different than a mini state hospital and a drug rehab center to only further deteriorate the community with crime and drugs. That part I do not understand. I do not understand. And the idea is very disrespectful that you're going to get with the chamber and have a meeting with the business community. Let me tell you about the business community, right? That whole downtown thing, I don't know where you've been at for the past however long, but it's extremely divided on racial lines. And I've worked my behind off to fix that. Hold on, Chairman.
Address.
I address you. And I worked my behind off to fix that. And I think you've been in those meetings. We had the back and forth. And I think Fred is the attorney that sits in those meetings. Race is divided. It's divided along white and black lines. And I fought to make downtown one. And here recently, they've agreed to move the downtown sign from Railroad Street, to move it down to about a dollar store, and to make downtown equal so that people have an equal stake in downtown. The downtown business community and the chamber do not run the predominantly black community. So to sit down and talk about you're gonna have a meeting with the chamber, when are you gonna have a meeting with the blacks? When you're gonna have a meeting with the predominantly black community in which this hospital, a Meridian is gonna go in? When did you think that somewhere, somehow that the Lake City business downtown community has such a stake in a place to say what that community deserves or not? Because that community, last I checked, it pays the same millage rate and taxes as any other community and any other business. So to overlook them in your conversation about the chamber, no, you don't need to go see the chamber. You need to come see the hood. You need to know whether or not the hood want that over there or not. That's who's important. The predominant black community in which that, what you're talking about, is going to affect. And I think if this board meant right, then they wouldn't even allow a comment like that to come out of his mouth without him saying, oh, wait a minute, you don't look and take one group of people and say they decide for another group of people. I mean, what year are we trying to go back into? This is 2022, not 1942. And I think that we're just too often not really trying to be equal and make things as fair and rational as we pretend. And if we really want to make good on things, we would make sure that we kept our first proposals that we all agreed on, which was the college, the whites, and possibly some of these other Christian groups. I think that those were the last conversations that we had, and those were the things that the community was looking at and depending on. Now, all of a sudden, here we are revisiting all these other things that were never on the table. All of a sudden, here we go back at it again. And as far as Ace Medical Group, I called 2 CEOs of some of the biggest hospitals in the state of Florida, and they're like, who? Ace who? I was on my phone pacing around like, Ace who? Like, they're not even familiar with these folks. And I don't know what the medical center is proposing. I guess I call Sam later on when I get a break and see what they got rolling in their brain. But I mean, they're out 90. So I think when they had an opportunity to come north, they didn't want to come. So stay out west. And that's my position. I'm not going to change it. Meridian's a bad player for this community. Hope Bridges did not get the bond. I think both of those are off the table. And I think that you stick back with the college where you were at, you stick back with the whites where you're at, and you work on a pharmaceutical concept, and you work on a dental concept. And if for some reason y'all want to roll the dice and the authority board feel like they're lucky and smart and wise enough, then a guy that I do admire but lacked a lot of education, which was leadership. I think this board is a different board than leadership. And I think that that concept may be worth entertaining. I think this is a totally different board, a totally different time, and a totally different group of intellectual people that can pull that off. I don't know, but that's something that the board will have to consider. But I think option 1 and 2 should be dead on arrival, which is Hope Bridges and Meridian Behavior Healthcare. Thank you.
Mr. Warren. Are there any other public comments?
Yes, Vanessa George. I want to piggyback a little bit on what Sylvester said, but I want this board to look at 2 things. Number 1, when you go to the commercial community, they're there 9 to 5. I live in that community. I'm there 24/7 when I'm not working. I got to be there at night when you're going to have the druggies and the zombies walking the street and walking in your neighborhood, and you making sure all your things and your belongings are there. And I'm talking about Meridian. And then the second thing is this, and I live in the hood and I choose to live there because I want to make it better. When you putting people with drug issues in the center of where the drugs are, what are you doing? Not for the people. You're not working for the people and you're not working for the community. You putting them in a haven, a drug haven. This is where the drugs are. I ain't even got to go nowhere to make my money. You bring them to me. Yes, they're trying to get on drugs, but when you're trying to get off something, here's the temptation. I've been trying to lose weight, but there go Chick-fil-A right here. You know, so you putting temptation in their face. So I want you all to think about that when you make your decision. Meridian is not a good fit for that area. Thank you.
Joshua Garner, 1080 Southwest Jamestown, Glen. Apologize, I walked in a little late. I was trying to catch most of it on the stream though. I was kind of confused too, because even though I wasn't at the last meeting and tried to research as much as possible, that I thought the college was definitely one of the top tier options for the future of the community, you know, the future of downtown, you know, making it into a teaching learning facility for one of the already amazing nursing programs in the state already. Like, were they not invited to come? Did they not know about this special meeting? I was just kind of confused why we're hearing back from Meridian, which I had also, you know, again, just from hearsay of the entire city was there's no way they should put Meridian here for the same facts of, I mean, mental health is crazy important. And, you know, I completely agree with it. Trust me, over the last couple of years, I've had my own personal transformations with mental health. I'm all about it. But when it comes from mental health, drug clinic, and this and that, and you're putting this in to a center where, you know, we really do want to revitalize and make it where, you know, why is, you know, people of Lake City are telling people, hey, you really got to go check out this place in White Springs downtown. Like what? The barbecue place in White Springs, 20 minutes up the road. They have more of a tourism grab most of the time than our own downtown, which, you know, luckily we have some really good core businesses. And I think that there's a lot more future to come from that. But putting that kind of center down there, I don't see how any other business would be like, you know what, I really think that that's probably a good spot. So 100% I would disagree with Meridian, you know, but I don't have any other, you know, funds coming in from them either. So I'm not really sure, you know, why they're here. I don't know anything about the other companies, so I can't speak to them, unfortunately, but I would just like to see why we're not talking about the college program. You know, was it something that they denied? Was it something that, you know, just wasn't discussed, could be brought here with tonight? So, thank you.
Thanks, Josh. Any other public comments? None online. Any comments? Questions on the proposals, comments on the proposal from the board?
I think that at our next meeting, we should have contracts so that we can actually make a decision about what we're going to do instead of just this nebulous. We've got all these people out here.
Well,
We keep talking to them.
instead of saying, asking for contracts, I mean, we could do that, but who are we talking about having contracts with?
We'll see what they're going to submit to us, that they're actually willing to put in writing.
They've submitted all the proposals they can
That,
submit.
wait a minute, those are proposals. So that at our next meeting, their contracts are there and we can accept or deny.
It's put a lot of pressure on the staff to negotiate. So.
Good neighbor.
I'm sorry, Miss Chancey, was not able to hear all of that.
Pull that microphone down.
What I was saying is that I think we should ask for contracts. And at our next meeting, accept or reject contracts.
ask for contracts from the people who propose the options?
Yes. Then we have something definite, because the difference between proposals and contracts can be like miles apart.
I don't have a problem asking these people who submitted proposals for a contract. I don't know that they can get one put together that quickly, because we've sort of been working opposite of that. We've been negotiating the provisions of the contract. And obviously, as there is with any contract, there are certain deal breakers. And we tried to deal with the deal breakers first. We felt like if we could get past those, then the rest of the detail would come. But that's basically where we're at with like the Hope Bridges proposal. Can't get past the financial guarantees, which includes the bond thing that was mentioned earlier. We just can't seem to get past it. Then, of course, they modified the proposal. They brought a new person into the mix. Maybe with that person, they can now make those guarantees. I don't know that. I don't know that they can. I don't know that they can't. But that was sort of what has happened. And then, of course, the rest of these are governmental entities, or they receive governmental support. They have audited financial records such as Meridian. We'll do whatever we're directed to do.
Mr. Williams, do you know anything? I looked earlier today and Mr. Powell asked, and they said that the contract would still be with Hope Bridges. If that's not an active company in the state of Florida Department of State, I mean, have we heard anything on that? Have they moved to a different?
Yeah, I mean, we were
State?
told that it was dissolved. I think it was dissolved as part of a legal maneuver because of a lawsuit. I do believe that is correct.
But he said tonight that that's who the contract would be within.
Well,
Would be
it
with-
obviously can't if it's going to be dissolved. You can't obviously do that. The only thing that is continuing that part of the conversation again is this new element pertaining to ACE. If that's not of interest to you, there's really no need to proceed with that proposal at all, which is what I said earlier. The only reason at this stage of the game, based on the negotiations in the past and what we've all learned, is if there's any life left in that, it's because you're adding this new element. And if that new element doesn't in any way excite you or makes you think that it's good for the community, you can dismiss that option in its entirety, because we cannot contract otherwise.
Okay, but my understanding was, in the discussion tonight, is that ACE would be involved. If, I can talk all I want, but if I've got a contract and their name isn't on it, they're gone.
I just feel like we're wasting everybody's time.
I'm tired of the,
Yeah, this is like extension number what, 4? Sorry, my patience is thin with those. I mean, I get it. I just, unfortunately, I feel like I was being told exactly what I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I heard all night was like, oh my gosh, and it's too good to be true. And I'm very nervous that it could. And I'm very nervous that I'm just, is this just another extension package? I don't know. I mean, I asked a question that I thought was pretty telling. I asked him what changed. ACE went from medical to now they want to do an ER. And the answer was dynamic thinking. I don't know. That's tough. That's tough to swallow.
Let me start. Let me just say this. You can take it for what it's worth. And I don't get a vote unless the three of you somehow tie. So somebody would have to vote twice. I'm in favor of ending conversations with Hope Bridges because I just don't see it happening. We've talked about it for months and months and months. I am in favor of starting contract negotiations with your ER solutions. And I would like to start those as early as tomorrow and hopefully by our next meeting on November 14th, we can have some serious details and get that going as quickly as possible. That leaves us with Meridian and the college. You had reached out to the college after one of our previous meetings to see if there was still interest in them having land in the downtown area. Were you able to?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said just then. I think we need to go ahead and have staff proceed with the two-story women's center. I'm convinced in my mind what needs to go in there. The college is interested in another building or property. And if you remember, Dr. Barrett even mentioned at the meeting back, whenever it was, 6 months ago, February, I think it was, or March, that they probably would end up raising the building, the hospital, even if we gave them the 10 or $12 million they were asking for, use the money to raise it and then build the facility. So I think that they, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Williams, they were kind of out the door on that. Going back to the actual facility, the hospital itself, I agree. I have attended meetings with Mr. Williams, Mr. Powell, Mr. Coberline, and all three of them are to be commended for the hard work that they put in and the lengthy hours that they put in dealing, attempting to deal with Hope Bridges. And I'm about ready to throw in the towel on that. As far as Meridian, I think Mr. Savoy answered my question tonight when I asked him if he was going to reach out not only to the chamber, but to other parts of the community, meaning the whole Columbia County, north, south, east, and west. We have community centers. We need to have involvement, participation through these community centers, and whatever I can do to help with that, or any of us can do to help with that. But I'd like to get some input on the county on how they feel about that project. We've heard from some of the people here in the community on how they feel, their opinions. We have for and we have against. And again, if I need to make a motion that we proceed with the Women's Center, I'll be more than happy to do that. In fact, I will make that motion that we proceed with negotiations on the Women's Center with ER Solutions immediately with the Doctors White and get them up and running.
Second that.
I have some reservations.
We've got a
about some
motion
of
in a
the-
second, but go ahead with comments.
I have some reservations about some of the things in their proposal. I think ER Solutions is a wonderful thing. But some of the things about what the charges to us would be and the things that we're being asked to provide, it just kind of doesn't mix real well with me. That's my feeling, okay? Because I haven't heard anything about lease or anything like that in with this whole mix. Now, I understand that they will have an expense to start with, but I'd like to hear, you know, what the back and forth on that is going to be. And that's my only hesitation our expenses and leases and equipment and that. Because I think they would be very good for the community. With Hope Bridges,
We've got one motion on the
oh,
table.
we got a
just to
motion
go
on,
forward
I'm
now.
sorry.
So let's just keep,
The reason for my second was we are open to negotiations with them. We are saying to proceed forward with negotiations for them. Am I not talking loud enough, Barbara? I'm sorry. My motion for the second was what I believe Don was saying was we are going to open negotiations with them to finalize and flesh out those details. So I agree, I would like to know more, but I think that's our best candidate. And I think that's the reason I was so quick to motion is I believe it to be a shoe-in. We just have to go through the details.
we've got a motion and a second to start negotiations and come up with a contract lease to be presented at the next meeting. Was that correct?
Mr. Chairman, if it can't be at the next meeting, which is only 13 days away, then at least maybe we want to look at a special meeting in late November, or if not, the first part of December, but let's get going.
As soon as possible.
Yes, sir.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the motion carries.
okay, I propose that we cancel our 14th meeting. And we have a special meeting the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. Is that the 21st?
Whoa. Whoa.
That would give them one day less than 3 weeks to put together whatever they need to. Are you going away that week?
No, are y'all going to use an attorney?
Uh,
How quick can you engage your attorney in this? Okay, because, well, you hear what my trustees are requesting. Well, to meet that schedule, and this is just based on my own personal experience, if we try to prepare a document and then you take the document back to your council, they're going to have changes, they're going to have suggestions and et cetera, and then we got to come back. I think the only way this works is if you get your attorney involved up front, and then we can all come to some agreement on the provisions as we work through it.
I'll keep them muted.
Tried to give you some slack.
Yeah.
Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
Well, and of course, you heard in public comments earlier what happens when we don't get these agreements out there in the public time. So we don't really have 3 weeks. What we have is,
48 hours.
something less than that, because we need to publish ahead of the meeting, giving as much advance notice and opportunity for people to review it as possible.
Well, I mean, could we, at the next meeting, let's say that meeting's on the 14th and not the week of Thanksgiving, Lori.
Please.
Thank you.
If we kept that meeting and we had get an update on where we are and we kind of have an idea, and then we can discuss it also and say, well, we don't like this, or we do like this, or we want to go for this, or we want to go more this way on this, whatever that may be. And then in the December meeting, end of November, like Don said, possibly beginning of December. I don't care if we have another.
Well, that's what we've tried to do in the past. We've tried to give you all the bullet points of the deal breakers, and I'll just use the one that was used in the comment about the bond. That's the reason in the memo it says couldn't agree on a bond, couldn't get a bond. So the only suggestion we got is this. Now, whether that would have been acceptable to you or not, you don't have to make that decision because we've moved on from that proposal. But that's what part of these negotiations are. If we can't, agree on a specific thing, we try to designate something that is acceptable, which may or may not be acceptable to you, but that's why we do the bullet points on those memos. That allows you to look at it and go, yeah, I can live with that. or no, this won't work no matter what, we got to get this changed. And then it's up to Fred to put it all in legal form.
I think the sooner the better you get it to Fred. He reads a little slow sometimes. Perfect. I think we can have an update or something at our next meeting, whatever that may
Can
be.
definitely get that. Miss Laurie, I do hear you. We'll try to have it, okay?
Well, and in the meantime, we could set up a special meeting in case we don't come together on the 14th with everything.
How much time do we need
That
for a
can
special
always be
meeting?
canceled if we do.
Need 7 days notice on the special meetings. I think if we decide on the 14th, we may need to schedule it at that point, but is that fair?
Okay.
She's just dying to meet on Thanksgiving.
Do what?
She's dying to meet on Thanksgiving.
No.
Maybe I'll do it this way. Is there any comments or motions? I'm just gonna go down the list on Hope Bridges, VA transitional housing with or without Ace Medical.
I think if we want to consider Hope Bridges, which the proposal he came out with tonight was good, we need a guarantee that Ace Medical is totally involved because they have the funding. I think there has to be some kind of guarantee that way.
Douglas, did you?
I'm considering my comments.
The chair, can I make a motion? Go ahead.
Just don't know how much farther I'm willing to chase that. It's, and again, I'm just saying my same comment over again. I felt like I was being told exactly what I wanted to hear. And I have that concerns me more than anything. Was they're going to take my facility and turn it right back into a full functioning ER. And it's quite a change of events to happen at a meeting that I believe we were clear with him. It was get it straight now or don't get it at all. And here we go. And there's an entirely new set of parameters, and it seems like this is a perpetual situation with Hope Bridges, is that there are consistently, like, the problem is I can't sit here and make this motion clean slate, like, heck with them, because gone, that's tempting, but I'm wondering if that's just what it is. Am I just being tempted again to just delay an inevitable? I don't know. Have we heard from Ace Medical? Do we know if how involved they are?
The last time we heard from them, they said that would be the last time we heard.
Yeah,
I do remember him leaving and saying,
yeah.
Very clear. They would not make any other proposal.
Well, here's what we know about Ace Medical. They have a good reputation, but they are a small market type medical provider. They're no threat to the big conglomerates. They're no threat to those big companies. They predominantly based out of Jacksonville. I think it's Oklahoma where they have an outreach hospital there. They have recently started doing something with Madison at the Madison Hospital and one other, I'm told, which I don't recall where that other is. We never vetted at any level Ace Medical. Never got to the point in any of the prior submittals. So, what we do know about them and what we have learned about them in the past was just stuff that you could get directly off of any public record. So I don't recall, or I don't think that there was anything negative that come up. Now, look, we've done this a pretty good while now. I don't think I've pulled anybody up involved in medicine or medical services that don't have some liens or judgments or, I mean, it's pretty common in that field. Some more than others, some more serious than others, but any of these proposers so far, now, we have not vetted the whites, but any of those others, I mean, there are things there. There are things there that stand out in the record and they're available publicly. And then, using the same tool, we can get a stack of attaboys that big.
Yeah.
So, you got all this negative and then you got all this positive. But at the end of the day, we believe as staff, our job is to tell you what we learned. And at the end of the day, if these entities can sign a public entity crime statement, unless I'm just misunderstood, they have the ability to enter into a contract as long as they meet your other requirements. Now, again, getting back to this Hope Bridges ACE, I mean, we tried to say it as nicely as we could, but I think what we're saying is Hope Bridges can't possibly enter into this agreement. If ACE doesn't do it, if ACE is not the one who makes the financial guarantee, doesn't matter what we want, this is coming off the table anyway.
I think we're now 5 miles down the road, and for this out of shape boy, I'm tired of kicking this can constantly. I think if I'd said tonight that I wanted to see a Ferris wheel at the helipad, Ringling Brothers would be partnering at the next meeting. So in that case, I'm going to make a motion that we discontinue talks and negotiations with Hope Bridges. And I'll I'll ask for a second from anybody.
I'll second.
And a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I disagree with it. If ACE would, on a contractual basis, put their name and sign it, that would take the place of a bond because ACE would be responsible.
Then we'll be 5 1/4 miles down the road. And how
Well,
far
they
we
could
gonna go?
They could have the same 2 weeks to come across with something.
We said that 2 months ago.
No, we are putting timelines on
We
them.
did that. We said at the last meeting that we had to have it, and then we gave it an extension again.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear Ms. Trancy about her concerns.
I said that if ACE is willing to enter into the contract,
Okay. The
that
problem-
would take the place of a bond because of ACE's standing.
I agree.
Okay,
The problem with that, then that would eliminate the motion that I made regarding the Women's Center, the 2-story building, because I don't believe we need to put that facility in there with whatever it's called, your emergency solutions. I don't think that the two would want to compete against each other.
I think they're two different entities.
Well, yeah. But ACE's proposal when they came here, if I'm not mistaken, was not an emergency room.
That's correct. It was not.
Okay. It was going to be basically just an urgent care type facility. And I think we're going to have that in place with Dr. White's.
Okay.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, when there's a discussion of financial security, you have to be more specific. There's no guarantee that an entity will be here 36 months from now or less or more. The security needs to be in some type of percentage, and I'm not even sure what the agreement would look like. For example, how many months, how much would the payment be, and what would be secured? is we're not close to an agreement with Hope Bridges. And so I don't know how you can conclude as to how much security would be sufficient. Because the terms and conditions that speak to monetary obligations and conditions are not close to being solidified.
Any further comments before we call for a vote? All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries.
All right, Mr. Chairman, just to make sure we understand, the Hope Bridges ACE proposal is now off the table completely. The emergency medical physicians at Lake Shore proposal, we need to negotiate as quickly as possible a draft agreement for you to consider. Because we're doing that, any of the other options related to the Women's Center, they're pushed aside because obviously they're negated if you accept a contract with MPALS.
When you say pushed aside,
Other words, they're just, if for some reason we weren't successful, then you could pick up option 2 or option 3. But until that is decided, we're only going to try to work with option 1. That's it. Okay. So we're back now to the main hospital. The main hospital. Do you just want to think and consider where we go from here on that? Do I need to do anything in the interim period with Meridian? What is your direction?
we're here tonight, and I'll stay here till midnight if they'll let us. I'm not saying we have to come to an answer tonight, but since we're here, we've got, in my opinion, we've got Meridian raising the building, tearing it down. The college made it clear that they would rather, the only way they could take the building from us is if we paid to maintain it for a number of months or years. And how long?
2 years.
2 years.
And a substantial amount.
And a substantial amount of cash. So we said we didn't want to do that. If anything, we would raise the building and do something with the land. So the way that I see it, and I could be wrong, we have Meridian or raising the building.
Right, correct.
That's correct.
So I just want to give the option, since we're here tonight at mile 5, before we go a little further down the road. Does anybody want to make a motion about anything tonight? Or we can sit on it. I'm not opposed to that. I just want to give the option since we're here.
I want to hear what Don has to say.
The only thing I'd like to say is I don't know, and I'll look this way towards our executive director. What do you suggest that we can do, this authority, to help vet in the community, the whole community of Columbia County, the idea about Meridian?
Well, I don't think there's but one way to do that. And I think it's already been at least mentioned. Look, the downtown merchants played a role. They did make comments, and I'm sure y'all heard many of the same comments I did when they first presented. But you got to get into community meetings inside of Richardson School. Richardson Gym. You know, if in fact Don and them want to convince that neighborhood that what we're doing is not a bad thing, that it's going to be an asset, not a liability, you got to get to your neighbors. You got to speak directly to the neighbors. And I don't think the intent in speaking to the downtown merchants was to cure that. I think that was just to cure their concerns, because if I remember right, there were some concerns about loitering downtown. But the neighborhood and the people who live there, just like Vanessa said, it's different for them now. They live there And they're gonna have to live with whatever happens, good or bad. So you get into community meetings, you go to Richardson gym, you go to other places. You know, it's gonna be a lot of work on Don's part. I mean, it's a huge sale. It's a huge sale.
Now, would it be appropriate for this board to ask you to try to schedule community events to hear from, for you on behalf of this board to hear from the community around surrounding the hospital as well as the downtown merchants?
Sure, I'd be glad to help Don.
Well, I want you on behalf of the board to hear from it. If Don and Meridian want to be a part of that to present it, because I think if you go before the community and the merchants and say, look, here's basically the options that the board has given us is tear it down or Meridian's on the table.
I can certainly do that.
And I'm not asking you, I want to make it very clear that I'm not asking you to sell either one of those. I want you to hear.
Look, community, these are the options and here's why we're here. This is the choices we have before us. What do you think? Now, in order for them to make an informed decision, they're gonna need information, which is, I can tell them all they want to know about knocking down a building. I got that. But I can't answer questions about Meridian.
Right.
So that's where they would come in and
And I don't
answer.
want you to, because I don't want it to appear that
I-
we're endorsing or.
I got you.
Well,
But at the end of the day, those are the two options that we're down to.
yes.
I just want to make sure that I'm understanding that correctly. Those are the only two options.
And we have to remember that we have to donate everything to them to get this.
So it's going to take a while to do that. So you may have to circle back to make your decision on the main hospital. But in the meantime, working with Molly and Michael, we can certainly progress with that. I don't know. There's been so much discussed about that proposal. Maybe I'm just optimistic, but I really don't think it's going to be that difficult. Maybe it is. You're gonna pull something unexpected out of the hat, Molly, and well, that's what I'm saying. Numbers are normally the problem, but that's really what's been discussed and vetted for the most part up to this point. The rest of it is, how it's going to work, the nuts and bolts, the pieces of it, which come a little bit easier than the numbers do. You've seen the numbers. It didn't scare you away. You said, let's see what the contract looks like. Getting there is huge. That's huge. Because if you can't get by the numbers, there's no need to even do the rest of that.
I know we've got Thanksgiving, the holidays coming up, Thanksgiving and Christmas.
I'm looking at the calendar and our first meeting in January is January the 9th, which is 10 weeks from yesterday. Would that be too much of a problem for us to ask Meridian, who's here tonight, whether they feel like through their large board that they have, that they could pull this off by having these special meetings within the community in the next 10 weeks? And I don't think there's, Mr. Coberline, I don't think there's anything that would prohibit us individually from attending these meetings as ears, just to listen. Is that correct, or am I wrong?
That's correct, so long as you don't have a discussion
Correct. Yeah,
with one another.
which I'm willing to do too, because I'm very interested. I want to hear, but
We can say.
I'd like to be able to hear back by our first meeting in January, by the 9th, which is 10 weeks. Is that unreasonable?
But I heard work through daily, so. We're certainly agree with that. One of the things that has to happen during these meetings, though, is we have to discuss facts versus myths versus fiction. And as we do that, we listen to concerns, we will address them and back that up with information. People choose to believe that or they choose not to believe that. Where that goes, you all hopefully can be there here. But again, not the first time that this type of discussion has happened in the community. We have not, we've heard things that we hear quite routinely. We will work through that, but we are here as part of the community. We welcome. So, yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Williams, is 10 weeks sufficient time for you through the holidays?
Oh, yeah. And I still don't see my role in this being the most difficult part at all. I still think problems over here with Don.
But you think you can facilitate?
Oh,
that?
yeah, I'm gonna get with people that I personally know within the community, and I'm gonna ask them for their suggestions where we can reach the most people and be convenient in them coming to such meetings, and try to set up venues where we can do that. And discuss those dates or possible dates with Don, and then we'll get going. Best way to advertise it where people know to come. You know, all of that's part of it.
Is there anything else that we need to discuss this evening? November 14th meeting, are we gonna, is everybody on board with
Yes.
having
I
that
am.
meeting at 5:15 at Hospital Authority office?
And Mr. Chairman, again, staff's role is to bring either a contract or a good update of where we're at. And those things that you approve to add to the agenda but held in abeyance, we'll just schedule those on the 14th agenda.
That's the D&O insurance and the legal services contract.
Yes.
Thank you to RKK representatives for sitting through this tonight, even though we didn't get to that. Sorry.
Bruce is going back, Billis.
All right. Anything else? Board member comments? Mr. Douglas?
I was gonna tell you to come back to me.
All right, Ms. Chansey, I'll come back to you. Mr. Powell?
No, I'm good.
Mr. Comerly?
So the next,
No, we still got you on the hook for another meeting.
next meeting's on the 14th and then one on the 24th.
No, we're not having one on Thanksgiving.
Not that serious about it.
No.
And you're gone on the 30th.
No sooner.
Mr. Williams,
I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
Sonia Cynthia. John Lee,
Just
back to you already.
nobody else. Yeah. No, I'll be curious to see how Meridian handles the community. I'm very curious about that feedback. I'm just one of those people that I happen to agree with. I'm very concerned about what a facility like that is going to be like over there. I have my own concerns about that. And I want you to know that. That's where I am with it. You know, I don't want you to just not to walk around not knowing that. I don't know how else to put it. I have my concerns. You're going to see my face at those meetings. I'm very concerned, very interested to see what you have to say.
Just don't talk to any of us while you're there.
But we can say hi.
We're allowed to say
Wave.
hello.
Just
so we're
wave
gonna
to
do
each
that.
other. Anything else?
No,
We've exhausted the agenda of brain cells, so we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.